and it's my great pleasure and privilege to be here every week with Diana Hunter and Gary Knapp. We love bringing this call to you, and I haven't mentioned this for a while, but if you don't know, Gary still edits all the audios for us for when I get the library up and running again. So he does a lot of work in making sure we have the best tools alongside of our YouTube videos, but also an audio one as well. Now, Dr. Steve Nugent is globally renowned in our community and in his own field. He's Mannatech's Global Wellness Director and Chairman of the Global Scientific Advisory Board. He has more than 40 years of experience in the area of integrative medicine. He's tested more than 6,000 dietary supplement products and formulated more than 100. He is internationally recognized as an expert in his field, and he has been teaching doctors for more than 30 years. He is Mannatech's most requested speaker worldwide. He has earned multiple degrees, graduating with top honors at both the undergraduate and graduate level. Just a few of areas of his studies include integrative medicine, health and wellness psychology, leadership psychology, organizational psychology, neuropsychology, biological anthropology, nutrition science, and business administration. He has served as the president of Emeritus of the International Association of Complementary Medicine. Oh, I got that mixed up, sorry. President of the International Association of Complementary Medicine, as President Emeritus, amazing, of the American Naturopathic Medical Association. He is a professional member of the College of Nutrition. He was also awarded the Servant's Heart Award by Mannatech Associates in 2007. And I know you had a new award, I think is the most loved person ever this year, Dr. Nugent. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I don't know what the award was called. I was so choked up when they gave it to me. I didn't hear everything I was saying.
I know, I saw that. It was amazing. And so humbled, you know, it's such very well deserved, Dr. Nugent. So I'm going to go off screen, but I'll be here if you need me, and I'll just be taking notes and refreshing. So ladies and gentlemen, we haven't had this content for quite a few years, so this is really welcomed education for us.
All right. Well, good morning to everyone in Australasia. And today we're going to do something that, well, this is information that all of you need. Some of you have it. Some of you need to have it reinforced. But when you're talking to a new contact, one of the obstacles that you have to overcome is the idea that you need supplements at all. Because unfortunately, medical schools around the world, and I mean just about every country on the planet, teaches the medical doctors that nobody needs supplements. All you need to do is wait until you get sick, and then once you get sick, you can have a drug or a surgery to fix it. That's kind of the perspective. Well, they also tell all doctors in all medical schools that the modern diet is so terrific that all you have to do is eat properly, and you don't need anything else. Then to make it a little more ridiculous, they teach all the doctors that everything today is exactly the same as it always was throughout history, which of course your own eyes can tell you that that isn't true. So the purpose of this particular presentation, which I simply call Why Supplement and Why Mannatech Supplements, is to really answer those questions and to give you documented scientific information that it's almost a certainty that your doctor does not know. And you shouldn't really be mad at your doctor about this, because I often get that reaction from associates in various countries when I give them this information, and then they say, well, I'm mad at my doctor for not knowing that. Well, remember, even doctors who think they're not human, and there are some whose egos elevate them to that, but that's not the majority of doctors. The majority of doctors really do care, and the majority of doctors really are there because they think what they do is the best that can be done for human health. But they're human beings. And you probably don't know this listening right now, but there are tens of millions of scientific studies. And scientific studies are coming out so fast, and I mean at the most unprecedented rate in the entire history of science. Science is growing so fast now that virtually no one can keep up with it. I don't care how smart they are, even using computers. you just can't keep up with these changes. It's astounding. So the information keeps coming out, and medical schools do not update in this area, which is unfortunate. And of course, government agencies that regulate the use of supplements, they don't update because they rely on their medical doctor consultants to tell them if they need to update. And those doctors have already been told that you don't need to update. So you see the kind of circle of events that ends up harming the individual because they don't know this information. So I'm going to give you some information. By the way, when I teach this information to medical doctors, because I do separate kinds of trainings for doctors, and when I give them this information, they're always astounded. I mean, genuinely, sincerely surprised when I tell them this information. But they told us, that kind of reaction. Well, so some of you may be genuinely surprised and astounded as well. So let's get on to some of the evidence under the heading of why supplement. Why would you need to supplement? Surely everything on planet Earth today is exactly the same as it was 1,000 years ago, 2,000, 5,000 years ago. Surely nothing's changed, right? Well, our environment has changed. In fact, recently, and of course I've talked about this in a book that I wrote called How to Survive on a Toxic Planet, that some Australian and New Zealand associates have read. We published it in several languages, and it was published around the world for a while. It's not published anymore, in case someone asks, because Mannatech's new regulatory environment, since we cannot talk about disease anymore, in the old days we could, we can't now. And of course, my book has references to disease. It has to be the book it is. So as long as I work for Mannatech, I can't sell that book. That's the rule. That's why you don't see it anymore. All right, back on track. So then, what do we know about our environment today that's different? Well, it's been changing a lot. In fact, it's been changing more than you know. Recently, I was doing, in fact, I just returned from China. And, oh, my friends, if you have not been to China, the air pollution there is off the charts. I've never seen anything like it in my life anywhere on planet Earth. It is just off the charts. And China is, well, they're China. They're not going to change. They're not going to improve their environment. Their Minister of the Environment has actually stated that the Chinese people have a right to pollute. Those were his words. So, since they create the majority of the pollution on planet Earth, don't expect that to change anytime soon. And especially with 1.4 billion people and growing, things are not going to get better. Then I'm in Korea, and as I'm getting ready to leave my hotel in Seoul to go to a meeting, they tell me, oh, you better take face masks with you. And why do I need this, I said? Well, because of the pollution blowing in from China today. And that pollution stayed there for days. The air was kind of burnt orange, I would say would be the best thing to describe it. Unbelievable air pollution that was blowing in from China. And of course, the people of Seoul had to deal with it, and wearing face masks and all that. And I'm just telling you, folks, that you are so, so, so blessed. You are so lucky to be living in Australasia, where, yes, you have pollution. Make no mistake, you have it. It's everywhere. But trust me, it could be a lot worse than what you've experienced. Even so, what's being experienced around the planet right now is bad enough to make any sensible person who knows the reality, who knows the facts, who knows the science, to say, "Whew, man, maybe I better do something different in my life every day to compensate." Well, there's more than that. I mean, I'll come back to pollution in a moment, but let's talk about the very first government-sponsored study in the world to see how we were doing with diet alone and how well we were doing in response to pollution. Well, of course, that would be an antioxidant question. One of the many things that air pollution does is it causes oxidative stress. Oxidative stress, for those of you who read my book, you'll remember it's related to 68 different areas of health. That's pretty big. That's a lot of connections to potential health issues. So oxidative stress, what is it? Well, it's kind of like rust. And everyone, of course, knows what rust is. Everyone's seen it. And rust is oxidative stress on metal. All right, you may say to me, well, I'm not made of metal. Well, no, you're not. But if you were to look at oxidative stress on a human cell, you will see that it looks very much like the rusting process. Now, there are different types of free radicals, is what they're called, free radical oxidative molecules. And there are different kinds of free radicals that do different kinds of damage. In fact, there's one type of free radical oxidative molecule caused by air pollution that can actually penetrate into your DNA. Serious stuff, folks. Just really, really serious stuff. Well, scientists in the United States, back in 1995, they knew, everyone was aware, that there are antioxidant nutrients found in various fruits and various vegetables. So they thought, since pollution's going to keep getting worse every year, which it is, by the way, I wish I had something positive to report to all of you, that it was somehow improving on planet Earth, but it's not. It simply isn't. With the two largest polluters being China and India, and by the way, the Indian government says they want to help, but they don't have the money to help and control the problem. So between those two countries, you have around 3 billion people, pretty close to 3 billion people, and growing fast. The population of India is growing pretty fast. So with all of these new folks out there doing what they do, and no government controls, just those two countries alone, even if every other country on the planet suddenly became completely green, as they use that explanation, or that particular term to explain being free of pollution and that sort of thing. Even if every other country on the planet did it, just those two countries continuing to do it, it's not going to change anything on our planet, unfortunately. So we need to deal with this. And these scientists in the United States who worked for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA, which at the time was very well funded for research, not so much anymore, but very well funded then. And so these scientists said, okay, antioxidants have the potential to cancel the harmful effect of oxidative free radicals. So if people are eating enough of these antioxidant-containing foods, surely we'll solve the problem. So they did a test, a type of blood test. It's called serum ORAC. The serum means blood, and ORAC stands for oxygen radical absorption capacity. By the way, a number of different nutrition companies misuse the word ORAC, making up a fictitious thing called an ORAC protection unit. That is not a scientific term. Most all of the other companies use it, but scientifically it's nonsense. It means nothing. It's just good marketing, just so you know. So ORAC stands for oxygen radical absorption capacity, ORAC. Well, so they test the blood of these volunteers. This was a very big study, very expensive study. And they test the blood of these volunteers to find out if there's enough antioxidant from diet alone in their blood. Now, they made sure that none of these test subjects were using dietary supplements at all. So it's just their diet. They were disappointed to find that most of the people they tested didn't even come close to having enough antioxidant protection in their diet from eating fruits and vegetables. So the next phase of the test was, all right, let's get everybody in the test to eat 1 serving of fresh fruit or vegetables, then 2 servings, then 3, then 4, then 5. They got all the way up to 10. Well, the difference between the protection level in the blood at 7 and the protection level in the blood at 10 was minimal. So they said, well, let's make our recommendation for 1995, knowing that the pollution would be worse in 1996, and you would probably have to make a higher recommendation than in 1996. So they said, so 1995, let's say it's going to be a minimum of 5, but preferably 7 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables. So that was that first study. USDA repeated that study every few years and then stopped doing the study in 2012. Why did they stop? Well, because every year when they did the study, the trend was the same. Pollution had increased, and the requirement for more servings of fruits and vegetables to try and compensate for that pollution had also increased. Well, when they got up to a recommendation of 13 servings a day, it's kind of like throw your hands in the air, because even a dedicated vegan is probably not going to eat 13 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables a day, and they only eat fruits and vegetables. So they said, all right, well, we'll make the recommendation, but we're not going to do this study anymore because every year is the same thing. It's worse, and more servings are recommended. Now, you would think the logical response then would be, we should, as a government, recommend that people start taking antioxidant dietary supplements. But they didn't say that. What they said was, eat more servings of fresh fruits and vegetables. Okay. Considering the fact that none of you listening on this call right now are cows, and you can't spend the entire day eating fresh fruits and vegetables, and you probably couldn't afford to buy enough fruits and vegetables to get that much antioxidant, it's kind of a foolish recommendation, especially after the U.S. Department of Agriculture did another federal study, and they found that only 11% of Americans, and it could be different in Australasia, it might be 12% there, it might be 10%, I don't know, but it's not going to be too different. And they found that only 11% of Americans were eating even 5 servings. And they counted what Americans call French fries and what you folks call chips. They counted that as a serving of vegetables. Well, it came from a potato, they said. It's not exactly my idea of a nutritious, healthy vegetable. Anyway, so that's how that stopped. And I've only talked about one category of nutrition. I've only spoken of antioxidants. Now understand, there's a lot of categories out there. There's also vitamins and minerals and glyconutrients and amino acids and omega essential fatty acids, and I can go on. And I've only spoken of one category. So can you get enough antioxidant in your diet to protect you from pollution now, understanding that the study they stopped with was 2012, it's 2019. How many servings might you have to eat now? I don't know. It's probably going to be more than 13. So we've only talked about one category. Well, let's move on and talk about another category, vitamins. Folks, without vitamins, you will not survive. End of story. I mean, no further conversation. There are certain vitamins which are essential not only to your life, to your health, but to your life. And essential, by the way, an essential nutrient is a nutrient which your body must have, or you will get sick and eventually die. And it's a nutrient your body cannot make inside of itself. So there's some nutrients your body can convert from certain foods or even from combining other nutrients. But an essential is something you can't do that with. It has to be taken in from food or food supplements. Okay. And remember, the idea of a food supplement is to supplement what may be missing in your diet. That's the whole idea. So here is a study that was published in the American Medical Association's journal, which is better known as JAMA, J-A-M-A. And JAMA has never been particularly friendly to nutrition. They are a dedicated medical journal, obviously, and they are very friendly to drugs and to medical procedures, but they're not real keen on all that terrible vitamin stuff. But here are two doctors, two researchers, Fletcher and Fairfield, and they decided to do a research study on vitamins. And their research question, and in case you don't know, when you do a study as a scientist, the purpose of the study is to answer a question or questions. So that's your research question. Their research question was, do people get enough vitamin to maintain daily minimum health through diet alone? They were very surprised to find out that the answer was no, because they're taught in medical school that the answer is yes. And that's the answer they expected to find, but that's not what they found. Now, this again is a blood study, and these participants, they made sure that none of them were taking dietary supplements so that they are checking their nutrition levels from food alone, from diet alone. And the words that you are seeing on your screen right now are not my words. It is the words of those researchers that was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Most people do not consume an optimal amount of all vitamins by diet alone. It appears prudent for all adults to take vitamin supplements. Now, usually when I do this, I'll have someone after the talk who will say to me, well, what about children? In science, you only report what you researched. This particular study, all the test subjects were adults, so they report on adults. I suspect, I don't know for certain, because you would need a study to be certain, but I suspect that had they tested children, their findings would have been similar, because kids are kind of small adults, okay? So then, now we have two categories of nutrition. Antioxidants. Can you get enough from diet alone? The answer is probably not. Now, in science, we try and stay away from speaking in absolutes, unless, of course, the only accurate answer is an absolute. When I say an absolute, I mean a definitive yes, no, on, off, that kind of thing. So I'm not going to say to you, I know with certainty, because I don't. I would say it's highly probable that no one listening to this call is going to get enough antioxidant from diet alone. Highly probable. Based on the studies, based on what we know so far. And as far as vitamins, well, based on the study, I would say it's highly improbable that anyone listening in this call is going to get enough vitamin from diet alone. Now, if medical researchers published in one of the world's most respected medical journals come out and say, it appears prudent for all adults to take vitamin supplements, should we ignore that? Or should we say, wow, my doctor's not aware of this, but this is solid stuff. If I want to take care of my health, and for everyone in my family and for everyone I love and care about, if I want them to be well, I guess it appears prudent for all of us to be taking vitamin supplements. All right, this is just two categories, my friends, only two. But these two are essential. Folks, if you don't have certain vitamins, you will get sick. That's not a question if, it's a definite yes, you will. And if you are missing an essential for any period of time, you will die from not having that essential. This is not a question, it is a scientific fact. So, do you need supplements? I would say it is highly probable that you do. Are you going to personally know if you personally have the right amount of every nutrient in every category? The answer is probably no. It is unlikely that you're going to have the right battery of tests because you don't have all the tests available to your family doctor to actually know that information. We've got to go by these general studies. The intelligent person knows that in the 21st century, things have changed. This is not 1,000 years ago. It's not even 100 years ago. It's now. Things are different. Things are changed. Now, this is from a 1997 study. And what these scientists, their research question was, has nutritional levels in our fruits and vegetables changed since 1951? 1951 was kind of a sort of a watershed year for going from traditional farming to corporate farming. So very different farming methods. And here's what they found. Now, I picked this particular food because peaches are my favorite fruit. And so there's a little bias there. And they did a number of fruits. They didn't just do peaches. They did a whole long list of them. So in this study, here's what they found. The words that you're looking at on the screen right now. For a woman to receive the vitamin A that her body required in 1951, a single peach, or I'm sorry, 2 peaches would provide it. But then you fast forward more than 40 years into the future, and suddenly she needs 53 peaches to provide the same level of vitamin A that 2 peaches gave her in 1951. Folks, things have changed. Just because a fruit looks good, in fact, sometimes having the fruit looking good is actually bad. And I'll give you an example with tomatoes, or you folks would say tomatoes. Tomatoes are typically, these days, are harvested green, and they're harvested green, so they're not ripe yet, because they don't want them to ripen too quickly and go bad before they can be taken to market and have time to sit on your store shelf. So they harvest them green, then they put them into literally gas chambers. They gas them with something called ethylene gas. The ethylene gas causes the green tomato to turn bright red, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful red. And then you look at it and you think, wow, this is just the nicest looking tomato I've ever seen. Is it ripe? No, the gas did not make it ripen. The gas caused a chemical change in it to make it turn red. That's being done all over the world. Now, the primary nutrients that you want from a tomato, like lycopene, in fact, it is lycopene, something your body really needs and loves when it gets it. It's lycopene that actually turns things red. Whenever you see any kind of red color or reddish color, that's formed from lycopene. How does lycopene form? A chemical reaction in the fruit in relationship to sunlight. There's no way to artificially create the lycopene. So you eat a tomato that's beautifully red, gorgeous, perfect red, and it has no lycopene in it at all. It's just empty calories. It's a shame, but it's the reality of the 21st century. Now, I'm giving you some U.S. statistics simply because they're readily available. The U.S. government, until I guess about 10 years ago, the U.S. government stopped funding a lot of these studies, and there are various political reasons for that. But the point here is that there's a lot of good data that I can get from the U.S. government, even today, that I can't get from other governments. And human beings who live in the United States are biologically the same as human beings who live in Australasia. And behavior-wise, although we have some unique behaviors between our countries, generally speaking, humans are humans. So this data should be pretty close. Now, as far as how many Australasians take supplements, I'm not sure. In the United States, it's 75% approximately who take supplements. Wow, that's a lot. When I started in practice more than 40 years ago, people had to hide their vitamins in public, be ashamed, because people would make fun of them. But now it's pretty normal. Well, what do we know? What we know is that 75% of Americans are taking vitamins. They're all eating more than enough food, like way too much food. And 90% of Americans are deficient. Whoops. Whoa, wait. If the modern diet is providing enough nutrient and 75% of the population are taking vitamin supplements, well, surely nobody should be deficient, right? Yet 90% are deficient in one or more nutrients. More than 70% are deficient in a long list of nutrients. The U.S. is not alone. I just did a symposium in China just days ago, and I pointed out to the folks in the symposium there that 73% of the Chinese are in need of some type of nutrient. In fact, some of the deficiencies are as high as 95% of their population in certain nutritional categories. 95%. So it varies a little bit in every country, but the point is you need supplements. That's the point. And the evidence is strong. Right now on planet Earth, there are at least 75,000 synthetic chemicals that did not exist on planet Earth before the year 1930. Didn't exist. Because that's the year that synthetic chemistry really began. That's the year it was sort of born. Now, scientists who work for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, which of all of the similar agencies of all of the governments in the world, puts the most money into what they do because the U.S. government has the money to do it. And they certainly have the population and the industry to look at as well. 75,000 are the number of registered chemicals, and registration is voluntary. Now that should bother everybody. It sure bothers me. I think every synthetic chemical should be registered. Every industrial chemical should, but they're not. It's voluntary. And guess what? In every country I know of on this planet, it's voluntary. I mean, let's face it, folks, we don't want to interfere with industry. We don't want to hurt anybody's industry, right? Better to hurt people. Now, I know I'm being cynical, but as a healthcare practitioner who spent my life trying to help people with their health, I'm just telling you how much this bothers me personally. Because human beings must come first. Human beings must always be the first choice above all else, as far as I'm concerned. It's my opinion. Some argue with me. But let's go back to the facts. The facts are we know that there are more than 75,000 chemicals. How do we know more? Because registration's voluntary. We know chemicals continue to be produced, which are not being registered with the agency. And scientists from this agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, scientists were out checking for a particular chemical in water. And using very sophisticated testing devices, they detected chemicals that they had never registered before. And in fact, the software in their computers was not able to recognize what these chemicals were. It was a different chemical structure than they had ever seen. Like, what is this? Well, they did some more analysis, and what they found was two different synthetic chemicals that they knew about had combined in water to form a new chemical. They did some more studies. They found more and more and more. And finally, these scientists said, we have no possible way of calculating the number of synthetic chemicals on planet Earth, because apparently many synthetic compounds, when they meet another in water, they become something brand new that no one ever wanted to create on purpose, but we have it now. It's here. Now, there have been those in industry, starting back in the 1970s, actually, when the U.S. had a very short period of awareness about the environment. And of course, it passed. People lost interest. But during that time, everybody was looking for pollution, and they were looking for things that could be possibly harmful to human health. And they said, the companies that made various chemicals, like DDT as an example, well, the manufacturers of DDT, which was manufactured to kill mosquitoes that carry malaria, they said, not to worry. We know that DDT is very harmful to humans, but we guarantee it will disappear in 7 years. It will biodegrade. It will just disappear. Well, guess what? That was 1971, and DDT that was made in 1971 can still be found where it was sprayed initially. It hasn't broken down. It doesn't break down. That's one chemical. My point, my friends, is if you think that you are immune to pollution on this planet, you need to think again. If you think just because you can't see a chemical that it's not there, well, I've got news for you. That's not the case. In fact, of these 75,000, there's only a few hundred of those chemicals that you can see. There's only a few hundred of those chemicals that you can smell or that you can taste. One of those chemicals that you cannot see or smell, you can't taste it until it's 3,000 times higher than toxic level in water, and you still can't see it or smell it. So if you think because you don't see the pollution it's not there, or smell the pollution it's not there, or taste the pollution it's not there, friends, you need to think again, because that's simply not the case. Wow. This paints a pretty grim picture of life on planet Earth, doesn't it? Well, I'm a realist, folks. A good scientist has to be a realist. I'm a realist. I know that certain things are not going to change on this planet. I don't have a lot of faith in governments protecting us. I want to say that tongue-in-cheek. I do have faith in people. And I do have faith that smart people can make smart choices for their life. This, my friends, is up to you. It's up to you as an individual to make the right choices for your health. And it's up to you as an individual to be responsible, to care about others, and to teach them what you've learned today to help them with their health. I put a lot of weight on you, didn't I? Well, somebody has to take charge. Somebody's got to be responsible. Here's another nutritional category for you, omega-3s. There is a government-sponsored institute in the United States. They have spent big money, millions and millions of dollars, US dollars. And this institute knows more about omegas probably than any other scientific center in the world because of the studies they've been doing with human beings. And they tell us that, well, let me backtrack for just a moment. Your body requires omega-3 in very large amounts. It requires omega-6 in very small amounts. Here's what we have today. We have omega-3 in very tiny amounts and omega-6s in ridiculously high amounts. They know this by blood tests that they've been doing on human beings. Omega-6s in amounts at least 10 times higher than normal levels, but as much as 30 times higher than normal levels. If your omega-6s go up too high, it adversely affects your hormone function, particularly in women. It can cause inflammation in the body because the omega-6s are too high. In your health, the key to health is balance. I know a lot of people think that the key to health is stimulation or taking huge amounts of something. The key is balance. You always want to look what is balance and shoot for balance, because that is wellness. Too much, too little is not wellness. Okay. Well, omega-3s you will find more studies on omega-3 and inflammation probably than any other category. And almost nobody thinks about it that way. Most people think about omega-3 and heart health. And in fact, some of what has been believed about omega-3 and heart health is now being questioned. But what I can tell you for certain is it's key to your body's own internal anti-inflammation process. And it is absolutely essential. You cannot make omega-3 in your own blood. You cannot make it. You have to take it in from an external source, either diet or dietary supplement. It is essential to brain health. It is essential to eye health. Almost nobody thinks about it with their eyes. But folks, you can't have healthy eyes without omega-3. It just doesn't happen. 50 to 60% of all the concentration of DHA in your body is going to be concentrated in the retina of your eyes. And as far as your brain goes, your brain simply cannot have healthy function unless it has DHA. About 35% of all the fats in the brain are DHA. There's a lot of different fats in brain tissue. And what about our children? Whether you know this or not, if a pregnant mother does not take in sufficient DHA, that child will never be able to reach its full genetic intellectual potential. Because during the formation of that precious child in her body, that child requires certain nutrients to form certain basic formations in the body. If that doesn't happen while those basic formations are being formed, then that particular area of potential is negated for that child for its entire life. Prenatal nutrition is so important. And omega-3 is going to be important for the formation of the child's brain and the child's eyes. Very, very important stuff. So I've given you yet another category. What do we know about omega-3s? We know that people aren't getting enough. Now, there's a part to the equation we're not sure about yet scientifically, and that is, why aren't we getting enough? Does it mean we're not getting enough because of our diet, or because pressures on our body from changes in the environment have changed to the point where we have to take more than we used to need? I don't know the answer to that question. I simply know that the average person is not getting enough. And that's all you really need to know today to know if you should go there. Well, then people say, well, I just eat more fish. And here's the problem. Not all fish contain omega-3. I know that's a surprise to people. In fact, there's one type of fish called tilapia, fairly popular fish in Hawaii. I'm not sure if that's a fish that you have in Australasia. But tilapia contains only omega-6. It has no omega-3 at all. None. Zero. And people say, well, I just eat more fish. The problem is omega-3 is heat sensitive. If you cook your fish, you're going to destroy most or all of the omega-3 before you eat the fish. Now, if you're doing it raw, that's different. Okay. But then there's the other issue. Scientists have now found that there are farm pesticides all over the planet. Now, there aren't farms all over the planet, but they've found farm pesticides at the North Pole and the South Pole, in the fatty tissues of penguins, and in fish, in every waterway that they have tested thus far. Now, I need to be clear, there hasn't been enough money or enough scientists, and probably never will be, to test every single waterway in the world. But, in science, when you know you can't test 100% of the factors, if you've tested even 20% of the factors, and all of them give you the same results, then it's highly probable that by testing all of the factors, you're still going to get the same results. So far, there hasn't been any test on fish in any waterway that didn't come up with toxins in the fish. None. So is it probable that you'll be able to eat fish that have no toxin in them? Probably not. Fish have to breathe by passing water through their tissue. They have no choice. That's how they breathe. And can you keep pollution from going into oceans? No. Can you keep it from going into air and into weather systems? No. This is why pesticides that are sprayed on farms can be found at the North Pole and at the South Pole, because it gets into weather systems, and the weather systems carry it around the planet, and then it falls again in the form of snow or ice. Snow or rain. And then, of course, pollution that's in the waterways as it gets into ocean currents, into river currents, and moves around the planet. Folks, life on planet Earth is different today than it was 100 years ago. Really different. Things have not improved. In fact, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has actually posted to their website, if you can navigate that website, what a mess that thing is. And they've posted to their website that certain fish should not be consumed at all, and certain fish should not be consumed by pregnant women, and certain fish should only be consumed in amounts of no more than 6 ounces per week. Well, I don't know anybody that sits down to eat that small portion of fish when they're eating seafood. Anyway, so I like to think of it like this when somebody is asking the question, well, how have things changed for us today? How do I explain this? Let's do this with machines. Now, I like to refer to the human body as an organic machine. It really is. And it has a series of trillions of little factories inside of the organic machine. It's pretty interesting, really, when you study it. So let's compare this to a vehicle, a machine, that everyone understands. Now, everyone knows that if you are driving your vehicle on a level plane, that you will get better fuel economy than if you're driving your vehicle uphill. When you drive your vehicle uphill, of course, there's more stress on the engine. Guess what else? There's more wear and tear on the parts of that vehicle, more strain on the vehicle as it tries to drive uphill versus downhill or versus level plane. Oops. Sorry about that, folks. So think about our ancestors as driving their organic machines on a level plane. So they have pristine air, pristine water, perfect food, very low stress compared to the stress of today. Today, human beings go to sleep with stress. They deal with it all day long. Even when they try and consciously suppress it, they are still dealing with it because of all the terrible things that go on around us. It isn't just the pollution. It isn't just trying to make ends meet, to pay your bills, to take care of your children, dealing with all of the potential threats that we have around us, around the planet today. Things that just didn't exist for our ancestors. They didn't have to worry about that stuff. Psychological stress does cause physical changes in the body. Psychological stress does lower your immune function, and the list goes on. So, if you're driving your vehicle 5 kilometers on a level road, you are going to get much better fuel economy than if you drive your vehicle 5 kilometers uphill. It's the same vehicle. It's the same distance, but the stress is much different. And the amount of fuel that machine requires is much different. Your body is driving uphill in the 21st century. Your body requires more than your parents required when they were young, than your grandparents required when they were young. The bodies of human beings require more support because they have more stress today than they did 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. Get a grip on this, folks. Reality. We are living in a time of human history where it appears prudent to take dietary supplements. So the next question, of course, is what supplements? Aren't all the companies the same? No, all the companies are not the same. In the U.S., more than 84,000 products are available. Not sure how many are available in Australia, probably a few less. And of the 84,000, they all claim to be the best. Virtually none of them have scientific validation on their products. They'll do things like saying, well, we have an ingredient that somebody else has studied once, but that's not a study on their product. At Mannatech, we do two things that are important. Well, three things really that are important. Because three words you think about when you think about Mannatech: science, safety, and efficacy. We use science to validate our products and create the safest products that are also the most effective products that can be validated. Science, safety, efficacy. The difference with Mannatech products is we do a three-step, a three-tier safety inspection program. Only one level of inspection is required for any company in the world, and we do it 3 times. Why? Because we as scientists know that human beings can have a bad day. We know human beings sometimes make mistakes, and everyone who's doing the safety checks are human. We also know that machines can go out of calibration. So we do a second check on a different machine, and so on. So we know that when we send that product out of our warehouse, that it is as safe, as clean, as effective as a product can possibly be. Do our competitors do that? The answer is no. Having your own quality assurance lab on board is expensive. The equipment is expensive. The technicians that you have to pay, that's another expense. Checking the material and checking the finished product, we actually check all finished products, and what we do is every pallet that comes in will be from a particular lot, so we know it's all the same material. We will then, from each pallet, grab 1 or 2 containers, test those containers in our quality assurance lab for safety, and we will know then if that lot is safe. Every lot produced by Mannatech is checked for safety. It's not a random thing. All. When I say to you that our products are safe, my friends, they are as safe as science can possibly determine. We validate by doing human scientific study. We currently have 17 double-blind placebo controls. That's the gold standard of scientific study. We don't have to say, oh, we have this ingredient in our product that somebody did a study on somewhere, so we know it's good. Instead, we say, we've studied this product in human volunteers. We know it works. We know what it does. We know it's safe. If you're going to put something into your organic machine, do you want to make sure that what you swallow is the cleanest, the safest, and the most effective product for whatever application you have? I would think the answer for you would be yes. And for those of you who are Mannatech distributors, Do you want to know that no one on the planet can duplicate what we have? And this is important for all the customers who will say, well, there's thousands of companies. I'll just go somewhere else. Well, good luck with that. Because we have exclusivity either through patents or through proprietary formulations or through exclusive ingredient agreements. For instance, in our product Ambrotose, and any product you see that contains Ambrotose, there are 2 ingredients in there that cannot be purchased by any company on planet Earth except Mannatech. If you want the value of those 2, and you should want that, then you're going to have to come to Mannatech. There's no other choice. We do this with a number of our formulas to ensure, we at this moment we have 90 active patents. How many companies have 90 patents? We have earned more than 140 patents in our history. How many companies can say that? We get patents because we keep creating with our state-of-the-art analytical chemistry lab. We keep creating technologies that are new, that are different, that are disruptive to the rest of the industry. The rest of the industry that's just a bunch of also-rans. Mannatech technology is the best technology to support human health, the safest and best validated. You need to speak with an associate if you are not an associate and find out more about these technologies. If you are an associate, feel so proud about the technology that only you as a Mannatech associate can offer for the health needs of everyone you meet everywhere around the world. So this is a general overview for all of you of why supplements and why Mannatech supplements. And I'll turn this back over to you, Sharon.
Dr. Nugent, how fantastic. What a resource is that going to be to help empower people to really share this effectively and with the right kind of accurate education. So, and that's, nobody does it better than you, Dr. Nugent. We're all empowered. We've got more information. We've got this available on recording. Thank you to everybody who's been here. Dr. Nugent, I've asked for another time sometime in June for our next topic. So I'll be looking forward to having you back depending on your schedule availability.
I look forward to it.
Thank you, Dr. Nugent. So ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend. And remember, next week is a business-focused call. So much, I don't know if you got the comments open there, Dr. Nugent. There's lots of gratitude coming back at you. So thank you from all of us. See you, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Dr. Nugent. Excellent as usual.
My pleasure, Gary.
See you soon.
Yep. Everybody have a great weekend.